find it every time I try to go from Minneapolis to St. Paul during rush hour for a meeting, or back the other way. I hear it from the chamber folks in New Orleans who can't get the trucks even on the Highway 14 with all the congestion there and then these idiotic pylons in the middle of the highway. I mean, that's the kind of, I mean, but that's the kind of, that's the kind of inadequate stopgap measure that Minda has tried to put up to deal with the fact that they don't have the resources to make it the 408 highway. And so, I mean, I don't want to raise people's taxes, believe it or not. I don't take any joy in that. And for governors, one of the reasons it's very hard to get funding for transportation projects is you got to raise the money for the project, which means you got to usually raise revenues for people. And then they go through all this inconvenience for a couple of years while it's being constructed. And then usually it's your successor who gets to go up and cut the ribbon. And that's suicide, raise the wholesale gas tax or whatever you want to do. And people start paying right now. And, the ideologues say, oh, this is terrible, and you're getting screwed and everything else. And, it's going to take 10 years to really get this thing into a real significant completion. We'll get some projects done sooner than that. But, I won't be around then. I mean, I hope to be around, but not here. So it takes some political courage to face up to this, what we have to do done, especially when there's still not a recognition of the need to do so. I say Minnesotans are, from my experience, pretty much in agreement on two things, and the legislators therefore along with them because they're reflecting their constituents. First is everybody agrees we should put more resources into improving our transportation system, and the second is nobody wants to pay for it. And there's about a $6 billion gap over the next 10 years between those two strongly held views, so it's going to be the legislature's challenge and mine, and with help and support of all of you to bridge that gap. And just lay it on the line for people. If you want things to be worse, willing to accept things being worse in 10 years than they are now, and continue to get worse, and let's just stick with the status quo in terms of revenues. If you want to make our systems better, if you want highways that are going to have better capacity and bridges that are going to bear the loads, not fall down, if you want public transit to be an option, or you want to just increase the congestion on the roads and highways because people don't have any other way to get around. If you live with that, then that's, you have a right to that position. I read one legislator said at the beginning of the session, well, the situation's urgent, but it's not urgent enough. And that probably described it. What matters to you more than anything is not paying another dollar in taxes or anything else to the government. Then you choose to live with that outcome. I disagree with it, but it's not a point of view to have. Where I have trouble is when people say, well, we don't really need to do that. We can just do a little smoke and mirrors and a little song and dance, and then we take care of the problem, and it'll be a couple of years before people really find that out, and then we'll be off the hook or onto something else. And I mean, I think we have a responsibility as policymakers, as elected leaders, and you as involved citizens to be honest with the people of Minnesota and say this is really our choice collectively. It's our choice for ourselves now and the next decade. It's our choice for our children and our grandchildren. Because if they inherit the situation that's got worse 10, 20 years from now, they got to pay for it, and they got to wait 10 more years to get it all put together and funded and completed. So, it's a momentous decision, and I'd say right now, it's hanging in the balance. I hope we can get to some agreement. I urge legislative leaders on both sides of the aisle, both bodies, to work with Commissioner Zolli and anybody else who has that interest and expertise to say, if they think the $6 billion is an exaggeration, the gap between what we expect revenues with the current sources and the needs over the next 10 years, just to maintain the status quo and to make some modest improvements. If they think $6 billion is exaggerated by special interest groups or fictional or whatever else they're saying about it, then fine, let's sit down and deal with that. I mean, we've got to understand, agree what the problem is, the scope of it, before we start talking about what the solution might be. But, you know, I don't get a sense anybody's anxious to do that. They just want to keep muddying the waters and say, well, you know, it's not this really, and we can do a couple $100 million general revenue so we can get money out of efficiencies because we're all governments incompetent. And there's billions of dollars in efficiencies in MidDOT that we can just draw on. I mean, that's the fiction. And that to me is really irresponsible. You want to say this is if we want to go through exercises in the next month and decide it's $4 billion rather than $6 billion, fine with me. If that's the scope of the problem, I'm delighted not to have to raise $6 billion in revenues if we four is sufficient. I take no joy in that. I don't think anybody else, the budget, or anybody else wants to. We just want to fix the problem. We don't want to fool ourselves and fool our constituents and fool the people of Minnesota that, you know, that $750 million is going to take care of something when it's not. This isn't about getting through the session without having to do something that's unpopular or unpleasant. It's not about getting through the session and the next one to get on to the next election and get reelected. This is much more important than that. This is about the future of Minnesota. It's about what kind of state do we want? Do we want to be competitive economically with others? Do we want to be socially viable? Do we want to allow for the million more people that are going to be living in the state to tell us in the next 20 years? Or do we want to just let it go? So that's the choice between us. I know where you are. I'm glad to be there with you. I will do everything I possibly can. But I can't carry the day by myself. And you can't carry the day by yourselves either. We got a list of people in Minnesota. You know, when I met with the New Orleans Chamber, they said we're all in favor of this. Trucking companies, as I said, great, and that's essential. We got to get local chambers to support and tell the state chamber why this is necessary. But we also need employees to understand the importance of this. We need people out there who understand the importance of this to communicate with their legislators responsibly, but emphatically. They support this. If they're willing to pay something out of their pockets, not because they want to or because they like to, but because they recognize the imperative, and they don't want the conditions to continue to get worse. And they don't want to hamstring our economy and our future social and economic vitality in Minnesota by unwillingness to do so. So, thank you very much for the chance to visit with you today. I've got a couple questions to answer what your timetable is, but let's go to work. We got a lot of work to do to convince people that this is necessary and figure out what the solution is. Thank you. I'll take the easy questions, you take the hard questions, okay? And we also have Adam Dunn, the chair of the Metropolitan Council, because of course that's another important component of this metro area. Yes.
For those of us who are watching and involved in this issue a long time, first of all, thank you and Commissioner Zelli and the new commissioner over at the Met Council. Really appreciate all that. But one of the things in terms of perspective, 2007, 2008, we passed the constitutional amendment and the gas tax and license tabs and all those things. Put that in perspective, that was of the identified problem we had at that time. We were falling off a cliff then too. That solved about 1/3 of the problem identified in 2007 and 8. So, it's no wonder for anybody who's paying attention. That is exactly as you described. The problem's gotten a lot worse, and it's going to accelerate how bad it's going to get. And just on a personal anecdote basis, I had an opportunity to travel all over the country with a transportation-related company. But taking a family trip down from Twin Cities to Oklahoma City, believe it or not, the worst roads we drove on I-35, the worst stretches were in Minnesota. And the other thing that's amazing is the amount of economic activity where the improvements have been made all the way down. It's just remarkable, the economic activity. And it's kind of interesting from the standpoint of, again, history. You were Rudy Perpich's name got mentioned as the governor and a big advocate. No wonder you were the Commissioner of Economic Development at that time. So thank you.
Well, your point there about the importance to economic growth. I mean, when I joined the U.S. Senate, I met the Highway 14 Coalition, which was trying to get 4-lane highway from the South Dakota border all the way to the Wisconsin border. And I was back then, earmarks were not a dirty word in Congress. There was a saying that Jim Oberstar told me: if it's somebody else's project, it's pork. If it's in somebody else's district, it's pork. If it's in your district, it's infrastructure. I think I got a lot of things done to some extravagantly, supposedly a lot of things necessary. So I was in 100th in seniority. I got my full share of the earmarks back then through the transportation bill. So 610 was then 7 miles short of connecting with 94. And I heard all these stories about how it was sold and how Target was not going to locate somewhere because of their headquarters or extension of their headquarters because of that lack, that hospitals had to take helicopters to get one beside the other and all that. Well, after 7 years of pursuing, 6 years of persisting in the U.S. Senate, moving all the way up to like 82nd seniority, we got about half a mile closer through a couple of earmarks. So we're now 6.5 miles short. And they're stalled again until the corridors of Congress and Commissioner Zelli initiative and the legislature, Representative Harmstein was the chair of the House and others on both sides of the aisle. Because once you need this for your district, you understand how imperative it is. Party labels don't really matter so much. It's about getting the job done. So they came up with the corridors of Commerce, and now it's in the planning development stage. It's underway. I think the construction goes on this summer, and I was up there for a groundbreaking for an industrial commercial park of 30 acres up there, and they got 2 headquarter companies that are relocating there, and they're expecting a hotel to go there, and they got all these opportunities now because people see this connection is going to be made. And it makes that kind of difference again and again and again and again. And again, we need your help to let people understand how vital it is. I don't view it as a choice. It is a choice. But really, if you care about the future of the state, it's really not.
Governor, again, thank you for coming up, and I got to keep asking you a question I always pose for every time we meet. Why, we get all 3 proposals, why do we ignore a $2 per axle toll bridge tax to pay for our bridges?
Well, I'm open to how to pay for it. I mean, I'm not saying it has to be wholesale gas tax. I mean, any of the options to pay for it, they're going to generate real money. I think should be debated and discussed. I don't know the pros and cons of that. I know there are different places where we wait 10 minutes across the bridge because of the toll thing. I've been so you get a fast pass and get over quickly. So, I'm open to anything that and the experts like yourself and others can address the pros and cons better than I. I just know we need the revenues. Okay, well, to be continued. Welcome your thoughts and ideas, both Commissioner Zelli and Chair Dunning and myself. Please pick up the phone. I gave everybody my home phone number. I hope you got it. Now you can write it down. Nobody writes it down anymore, so I assume people either just don't believe me or which after you served in office for 4 years, as it's to be expected, or you already written it down. 651-201-3468. 651-201-3468. I live alone at the residence with 2 German Shepherds. They don't know how to answer the phone, so either get security or get me. And I do this because I really want to hear directly. There's snags in terms of a project or something out doing a mistake I want. Please let me know. If you have an idea, how better to do something, please give me a call and let me know. So I look forward to working with you. Let's get this done this session. Thank you.